Jake, good evening, my friend. Welcome back. I'm hyped to have another conversation, sir. How are we living?
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Trev. I'm really happy to be here. I just wanted to start off, Trev, if I can say, by thanking you because just even since our last conversation, just the improvement in my mental game and really my emotional management and my process and being present, has transformed my game. Like I genuinely like the value behind that one conversation has gone beyond what I thought it could. And that, for God's sake, like it was literally a 45-minute chat, wasn't it, that we had? But what that has
Uh-huh.
done for me in terms of my personal golf game has been so valuable. So I'm really grateful. I'm like, beyond what I had high expectations anyway, because I love you already, Trev, but it's just incredible. And I'm really grateful, buddy.
Thank you, Jake. Well, that's remarkably kind. I'm thrilled to hear it, and I'm also now like incredibly curious. There's a trend sometimes in mental performance coaching where you have a first conversation and if somebody has been already doing a lot of the work and working their way towards it, right? Sometimes it's just that little nudge, just one little, question, one little bit of information that kind of helps somebody get right over that, that roadblock, whatever it may be. And yeah, they experience kind of some nice rhythm and performance right out of the gates, which is fantastic. Um,
Yeah.
I am
I've played the
curious
best
to
golf I've
know
played in my
though.
life. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. I cut you off. I apologize.
That's a big claim. No, that's great. It's a big statement though. So let's unpack it a little bit. I mean, talk me through it. We talked about a variety of things last time. As
Uh-huh.
you've been playing here as of recently, kind of give me the like the I want to say the highlights, but not necessarily the best moments on the course, but like the strongest reminders, the thoughts you've come back to, the routines, the habits. Like, what is it that is now in the mix that perhaps wasn't previously?
Um, I think definitely what I will say is the presence I have with what I'm trying to execute and what I want to see out there now in the moment. And also just the way I manage my emotions and things like that a lot more on the course. Like, so I said to you, didn't I? I think part of our conversation was like, I have this big attachment that like, I obviously want to be somebody who regularly shoots under par on the course and things like this. And then I'd
Sure.
assign so much importance to that, even over a point halfway through a round of golf, that it would sometimes I would actually just end up getting ahead of myself. Like, I just have those moments where
Hmm.
I'd really be like, I'd grip onto it and, but now it's like, because there have been, don't get me wrong, there's been rounds where I've been in really good positions. I've unfortunately let it go. But I know now there's nothing to do with
Hmm.
like actually my process. Like, as in, I know for a fact that I've done everything I can over that shot. I've accepted the outcome no matter what. And it's,
Hmm.
it's made the game feel like it matters less. Does that make sense? Like, what all of my like things that I want to achieve and things, it actually matters less. So it assigns a little bit less importance to it. I know that sounds a bit silly, but it's made it just more
Hmm.
fun again. Like as in I enjoy that challenge of like kind of like managing myself on the course more. Because there had like I mean
Uh-huh.
yesterday was a prime example. I'm stood on 17th. I told you about 17th hole at Woodbury. Stood on the 17th and I'm one under
Uh-huh.
par off the back tees as well. Like as in that's probably the best position I've been there in a long time actually. And I'd hit a driver well
Uh-huh.
all day, and I'm like, I'm going to step up and I'm going to rip this driver. Um, I completely spanked it into the trees, right? Lost the ball, and unfortunately went on to double bogey the hole. But but
Uh-huh.
I wasn't there. Like I wasn't there. I'd accepted it almost as soon as it left the club face,
Interesting.
and I was like, I know I'm going to be in this
Interesting.
position, if not better, 1,000 more times. And it was I had so
Hmm.
like literally before our conversation, that would have been absolutely like, oh, don't get me wrong, it wouldn't have ruined my day or anything, but I would have been very
Sure,
upset.
sure.
I would have really let that,
Uh-huh.
I've let that one get away. I let like, that kind of position. But I don't know, I just had
Yeah.
this. It's where just going, no, okay, I've accepted the outcome. I've done everything I can. I know for a fact that I did my process towards it. I made a bad swing. That happens. Like, that it was the acceptance and the fact that
Mm-hmm.
I was present, and I just went straight away said, okay, Trevor and I talked about process. This is part of the process. It's acceptance. It's allowing those kind of
Mm-hmm.
things and those emotions not to control me. And I really don't feel like
Mm-hmm.
they do. And it, I know that's like kind of I wouldn't even class it as a negative moment really, but it's something that's negative that I've like, around that I kind of let go. But I'm just able to kind of
Sure.
like frame it in a way that, yeah, this is the process. Like, ultimately I'm going to put myself in this position again. It'll be absolutely fine. I'm not,
Uh-huh.
I'm not worried about that now. I don't think about it all the way through any of my rounds. Like, oh, I don't want to mess this up. Like, it's not even a thought that comes across my mind anymore. And that's in the space of what, since our last
Interesting.
conversation, 2 weeks? It's like 3 weeks ago, wasn't it? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's
Interesting.
it just gives me a lot more. I thought I was present on the golf course anyway, but it's a lot more sense of presence in what I'm doing there. It really is. Like, and
Hmm.
that's been a big turning point for me. That because okay, I didn't get the
Uh-huh.
result on the day that I wanted, but it almost didn't. It didn't feel like it mattered because I knew that I had fun and I knew that I can go do this again.
Uh-huh.
You know, it was
Yeah.
like besides it
Uh-huh.
set so much importance to a golf shot or a score, which is what I was doing previously.
Yeah.
Whereas now I really don't feel like I do that. I'm just playing like I just play golf now. And that's one session. So that's one of the big. That's my. I know it's one big takeaway, but that is a huge takeaway just for
Sure.
me in my personal journey. Like that really is. So that's what I'm so grateful for. Um,
Well,
yeah,
I'm thrilled to hear it. Yeah.
it's a bit of a
Interesting.
weird one.
It's no, but it's really fascinating because it it highlights a really interesting point, right? In especially Western culture and athletics as like a large, we're oftentimes taught to care more, work harder, be more intense, right? Like if you don't care, quote unquote, it's almost like somebody's like, well, what's wrong with you? Like, should you even be here anymore? Like if it almost as if somebody's not completely bent out of shape because something went wrong or there was a bad break, it almost catches us off guard in a sense. And golf to me is one of the sports where it's quite the opposite, right? I mean, a softer grip, oftentimes better, caring a little less, actually taking a step away from the game for a day or two, oftentimes resets things in a really nice way. But what I continuously find is that folks have resistance towards that. And that's understandable. Okay, fine. You feel like if I step away or I care less, then I'm going to lose it. I get it. And I don't think it's the full truth. Talk me through that. If you were having a conversation, let's say I was a golfer, right? And you wanted to somehow get me to see the value in caring less, right?
Hmm.
In this way, kind of in this intentional way, how would you translate that value to me? Like why would that be worth it for me to do if I was going through a similar scenario?
Um, I've said it to a lot of. I think I might have even said it on video, but I've said it to a lot of my friends and things like that. So, I put it to like I compare it to like it's a bit of a silly one, but if you're really into a girl or like
Uh-huh.
or somebody, if you're really into somebody and you're kind of like you show it and like you're really like almost like kind of not pushy, but like if you're just kind of they can smell it on you,
Uh-huh.
can't they? Like you meet a girl on a night out and you're all over them and
Uh-huh.
they're like, and it kind of has the opposite effect if that makes sense. It kind of goes like it kind of pushes them away,
Well said.
even though you're trying to, obviously get closer and all that kind of stuff, it actually has the opposite effect. And I think
Certainly.
the exact same kind of psychology happens with golf. Because like you say, you want something like, you want to score, you're thinking about, a number and all this stuff. And
Sure.
your grip pressure tightens. You can't just let it go. You can't just let the shot go because you've got all these thoughts in your head and going like, oh, what if I do this? What if I do that? It's the same thing, kind
Uh-huh.
of that kind of paranoia around it. Um, and that I feel like that's the best way that I can kind of like like a trivia or kind of the metaphor that I would use for it because it does like I mean
Uh-huh.
I think I said it in our last conversation. You know, before I injured my shoulder, I was like, I'm putting
Yeah.
in all this hard work. I'm doing this. I'm like, I'm working hard, and I know I'm getting better, but it's not being reflected in my scores.
Hmm.
So I would find myself come off the course and maybe feel a bit frustrated about how a round had gone. And it was having that effect. Really, it kind of took the enjoyment out of the process and what I actually wanted ultimately. Was actually in a way it was kind of getting away from me because I wanted it so bad,
Hmm.
because I was like, yeah, come on, I know I can score this, I can
Right.
do that, I can, but
Right.
it has the opposite effect. And yet again, since our conversation, it's not like I don't sit there and I don't think that, like, my handicap's the lowest I've ever been, and that's in the space of 2 or 3 weeks, Trev. Like, and it's because I
Hmm.
haven't assigned so much importance to the number, or I haven't assigned so much importance to my
Yeah.
score on that day. It is just,
Yeah.
can I focus on what I'm doing in front of me now? Can I focus on this present moment, even when it's not hitting the shot, even if it's not even outside of hitting the shot, walk into my ball. Am I present? Because the amount of times that I speak to my friends, and we're out on the course, they're in a four ball. Some of them are new to golf, so they're trying to break 100 for the first time and
Uh-huh.
things like that. I can see them on their phones,
Uh-huh.
they know what they're on. And all of a sudden, you get towards like 14, 15, and they're getting quieter, getting quieter and quieter and quieter because I can see they're getting, the nerves are building, the adrenaline's there, and that kind of stuff. And I know for a fact, and I
Uh-huh.
say to them, I just said, I'm having a conversation with you. You be present with me right now. Like, you talk to me. Like, let's
Uh-huh.
we don't have to. All of a sudden, you kind of go for the last hour or 2 hours or even the whole round without even enjoying yourself because you're angsty and you're
Hmm.
stressed about it. And I know nothing good comes from that. You'll tell me the psychological side of it, but I know nothing good can really come of forcing it, of wanting it that bad. That's
Right.
it's just what
Right.
I notice a lot more than anything else with especially with like newer golfers and things. So I've had to teach
Sure.
myself that, or well, you've taught me that, but I've had to learn that. You have, yeah, no, you have, Trev.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can't honestly say, especially the couple of months leading up to getting injured. I don't know if I fully was. I
Sweet.
don't know. Like, I can't tell you if I've gone out and gone. I
Hmm.
really had. I've always liked to say I had fun on the course, but was I there present in every moment? And I probably can. I probably would say I wasn't.
Hmm.
You know?
Hmm. Well,
Yeah.
certainly a skill, right? Like certainly a skill that my hunch would be far before we ever had our first conversation, far before we probably ever interacted through Instagram and so forth. I gotta imagine you've been tuning and calibrating and strengthening this skill over time. And again, here's just a point where we've kind of pushed over the edge and we've reached that new level, and we reached at a level where now we can experience it and like, wow, I'm feeling the difference now, um,
Yeah.
which shows up in so many skills, but we just got to give it the time, the commitment, etc. Um, I will say I love your analogy. That is by far the first time I've ever heard that one, but it makes total sense. Um, and where my mind then goes following that is what I hear you saying really is that, okay, previously, maybe I get lost in this kind of singular moment, right? The bad drive. Okay. And no, it's not ruining my day, but I'm holding on to it for longer than I know I need to, right? And it's
Mhm.
kind of like we're just shrinking in, containers getting tighter, and this is all we can think about, feel, etc. And what I
Mhm.
hear you saying is like, maybe previously I stay in that space a little longer than I'd like to. But right
Mm.
now, what's happening is though maybe that space shows up and tries to appear, you almost
Mm.
kind of zoom out. It feels
Yeah.
like if you're
Yeah.
able to accept it and be present with it, it makes me think the container gets larger. You have more room to breathe. You have more ease in being able to hold it, which
Mhm.
makes me think then, and this is kind of my question is, well, what else are you then focusing on? Like, what is it that you're recentering to or re-anchoring on that's allowing you to zoom out and say, okay, I'm not focusing in on this. I'm going to zoom out and focus or remind myself of this bigger picture. Talk me through that. What is the bigger picture that you might come back to?
Um. I like to think that no matter what I'm doing in my life at the moment, whether it's golf or outside of it, I like to feel like I'm improving or I'm getting better every day. Like it just is something, you know. So when I do hit a bad shot or make a bad swing or say there's a little pattern in my round or anything like that, I now frame it as, well, I'm going to go work on that. I can improve that. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, that's a physical
Mm-hmm.
aspect to this, rather than letting that moment control my mind or my mindset or my mental game for the rest of for the rest of time, but like for the rest of the round, rest of
Yeah.
that week or anything like that. Then I kind of frame it as like, yeah, no, that's educational. Like, that's a lesson to learn there. Um,
Mm,
and I think those little steps and those little improvements actually amount to something more important. You can identify those kind of areas. If it's the physical side of the game, you can identify that area and
sure.
go, okay, what can I do to mitigate that? What do I do to not avoid it, but say, okay, I mean, a bad swing will happen. It happened to anybody, but what can I do
Certainly.
to deal with that rather than framing it going, oh, it's the end of the world, like it's the end, like I've ruined my round and things. I just like that. I like that. I'll never give up. Like I never give up on a golf course, mate. No matter what, I could have the
Hmm.
worst start ever, and I just go,
Hmm.
I'm going to prove to myself what I'm made of today. I'm like, I started around the other week. I started double bogey, and I'm like, all I'm meant to be doing is avoiding double bogeys. Why have I done that? That was a bit silly, but I kind of
Mm-hmm.
thought, no, okay, I'm
Mm-hmm.
in this position now. I could sit here and sulk for the next 10 holes, like, until something happens,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
I could go back to doing my process and make the rest of the round the best I possibly can. Because at the end of the day, you never learn anything, never, especially not on the golf course, but you never learn anything through anger or frustration. Like, it's ugly. It doesn't make a good golfer. Like there's very few people that I know in sport, and that people that are incredible sportsmen, whatever they play, that allow that emotion or that or their emotions or their frustrations, say, to control them. Like really, I mean, boxing or
Mm-hmm.
fighting, maybe you could say there's like a little bit of aggression
Sure.
in there.
Sure.
That's part of it. But I still
Certainly.
think they're still able to be present and they're still managing what they're doing in that present moment, because at the end of the day, there's a guy trying to hit them. And golf
Right.
is
Right.
such a, like, you go, I was explaining it to my friends today, you go into fight or flight on a golf course in so many situations. Like, obviously the people at the peak of sports, like, tennis players and grand slams and things, they're managing their nervous system, they're breathing, because, they're doing 5 hour rounds
Mm-hmm.
or sorry, 5 hour games
Mm-hmm.
against the other best player in the world. Golf is one of the
Sure.
only sports that I think that no matter what level you play it at, because it's your own personal aspiration, it's your own personal goal, that your body goes into, you get that adrenaline, that your fight or flight, even though you're playing a course that you play every day or, you're at
Mm-hmm.
like a weekend. Everybody goes
Sure.
through that kind of stage of going, oh, I'm on for my best round or I'm on for my best score and all this kind of stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
I just find it so interesting that I'm learning to manage that now. Like it feels like a real big
Mm-hmm.
turning point for me since our conversation, that I don't let those situations or those thoughts kind of control me. I'm able to step back and just observe them and go, rather than trying to avoid it and run away from it. I'm now using it as energy and going like, no, this, I like being here. Like this is what I
Uh-huh.
enjoy. Like I want to feel this. Like this is fun, you know. And it's
Uh-huh.
kind of reframes it. And
Interesting.
it was the point, and that was because of the point that you said about it. Like it was like, saying that, okay, we'll do this right. Like as in when we were talking about my mental side and the process things, if we do this right, and then all the other stuff, like the subconscious stuff that's going on in my mind in the
Sure.
background, can just get pushed. Like
Sure.
we'll achieve that when we do this right. If we get this headspace and this
Mm-hmm.
mindset right. And it was when you said that, it was like, that's like a light bulb moment for me. Like that was. Now
Okay.
I
Okay.
now I think of you saying that, and I always think of you going like, "Yeah, let's chew on this for a minute," because I love it when you say that. Can you always say that? I'm like,
That's great.
yeah.
That's
I
great.
just go. What's Trev would ask me to
That
chew
is
on this, and I go, "All right, let's observe it. Like, let's just take a step back."
uh-huh.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
does
Well,
that make
that's
sense?
interesting hearing you mention this because, yeah, it does. It does. And as you're breaking it down, kind of what was coming up for me and what I wrote in my notes here is like, what I hear you doing is you're stepping into these situations. Okay, we'll just use the drive as a continued example. It doesn't go where we want it to go, obviously, off the tee. And okay, fork in the road. I can either get wrapped up in that, feel the emotions of that, run with those emotions, and let that kind of control the show. Or
Mm.
what I kind of hear you doing is almost like it's feedback. I'm just reframing it as feedback. I'm taking a step back. I'm zooming out. I'm able to look at that, say, okay, what's that mean for me? What's that mean I need to go do now? And then great, let's go do it. And it just sounds a little more matter of fact. It sounds certainly more regulated in this sense, right? Like we're not going real high. We're not really going real low. We're saying, all right, what actually is this in front of me? Um, yeah. And I'm curious. I mean, okay, now I have my hunch on this, but I'm curious what you've felt when you're able to do that, when you're able to manage that in that sense, what impact or like what's the ripple effect then? Let's say next shot or the next two or three shots. Like if you do manage in that manner, what have
Mm.
you noticed is then kind of the, ripple impact that then has going forward that might have not been there if we were getting wrapped in the emotions and holding on to it and taking it with us, etc.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's acceptance, like genuine. I know I've said that word a lot of times, but it all of a sudden, because I'm not, like you said now, I'm not going real high, real low or anything like that. Um, it doesn't feel like that. I can carry that emotion anywhere forwards from that moment there. Okay. Like, don't get me wrong. I saw the ball sailing towards the trees. I know that's trouble. I know I'm
Sure.
probably not going to find that ball where this goes. It's like, oh, you haven't seen the course, but it's gone. Like, I know as soon as I've hit it,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we're not getting that one back. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, so obviously there's that moment, but it's just like, yeah, just let it go. Like obviously that happened
Mm,
on 17, but if I'm thinking of other rounds where something might have happened earlier on, I would have, I would have previously, um, yeah, let that have the ripple effect, and it would eke into even my next shot, or maybe the next hole. I'd start chasing and things like this. I'd start like firing at pins where I know that I have no business going at, and things like that. Compound the error
sure.
over not even just that hole and the next shot, over the holes following. And then all of a sudden you're in a totally different position, that you made one mistake and that's actually compounded into, let's say, six or seven, over the course of a few holes.
Mm,
Whereas now
sure.
that just doesn't happen. Like it just doesn't. And I hit,
Mm,
I've hit better golf shots without anything happening.
hmm
Like, as in, even when I'm not doing that, because I don't have that kind of fear, or the
Interesting.
yeah, that fear or the expectation that if something goes wrong, I'm going to have this heightened emotional state, or state, sorry. And
Yeah.
it just means it can't eke into anything that I do. I mean, even the day after, or the week after that, it's not like it's not, it doesn't cross my mind, or I don't think I can be present in
Hmm
that moment, and I don't have to think about it. Um, and
hmm
that's what's helped me out tremendously, I think, because all of a sudden
Yeah.
I have a loose grip. I can just let it go. I can trust. I can move in that state of trust that, okay, if something does
Hmm
happen that is not perfect, I know I can deal with that.
hmm
I know I can deal with that, and I can move on, and I can still go
hmm
and continue and play good golf, rather than
Yeah,
throwing my arms
interesting.
up in the air, having a sulk for the next three holes, and
Sure.
probably ruining the round further. Like, realistically, that's what always happens, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Like, it never brings anything
Yeah.
good. I just, yeah, I do. I just
Yeah.
reframe it as like, let's see what I'm made of. You know, it's just, yeah,
hmm
let's just go back to it, and we go again. Yeah,
hmm
it's a lot
Yeah,
of fun.
interesting. Yeah, I could imagine, right? Like it makes like now you're like a, I like the term kind of being a gamer, right? Like now you're being a gamer. Like now
Yeah,
you're rolling with it. You're ebbing, you're flow. You mentioned boxing earlier. That sounds like it. You're staying in the fight. It's a duck, it's a dot, whatever. Um, but it's not this big thing that is now, oh shit, this just changed everything. It's like,
yeah.
okay, there's the punch. Let me roll with it. Let me find my
Hmm.
way back into it, and I keep going, which is incredible. Now, with that said, something I'd love to get a little more of your thoughts on, and then maybe we can shift this over and talk about what this looks like for somebody who is not maybe quite as technically or physically skilled as yourself. Um, but in order to accept something, and this could be on the golf course, this could be in life, but in order to accept something, that typically means we have to have a larger sense of trust in something else, right? It's like if I'm thinking of like, I don't know if you've ever been to like a ropes course or an adventure course, where you climb up
Yeah,
trees or telephone
yeah.
poles, right? And you do these things. And it's like, I can remember one I've done distinctively where you climb up at the top of a telephone pole and then you have to let go of that telephone pole basically and reach up and grab like the next rope. And no, I would never let go. I don't know, this might be a terrible analogy, but like I would never let go of that telephone pole if I didn't have that rope that I know I can go up and grab on next, right? Like I'm so scared, probably scared shitless to do it because you're up there and the wind and so forth. But I have that I can hold on to. That's what tells my brain this is scary, but it's okay to do. So when I hear you mention this in the golf context, my mind kind of asks the same question. It's like, okay, if we're letting go of that emotion and that need to hold on to something, that must mean that we're putting our trust in something larger, something that we
Mm,
have more belief in. And I
mm.
hear you mention this piece around, well, regardless of what happens, I'm confident I can go figure it out. I can go work with it. And I was curious if like, is that perhaps what you're trusting in more than, the concern? Or I don't know, how's
Yeah,
this concept in general kind of land to you?
yeah. I mean, I like. So, I mean, it's just it's always part of my process. Like, as in, I'm very very fortunate I've been able to work on my swing and my technical side and things. And don't get me wrong, I'm there's still some I've still hit some dross shots. Like, yeah, that's fine. It's going to happen. But I think a huge part of golf is the word you said. It's trust. Like a huge part of it is once I have
Mm,
picked my target and my club and the wind, I've assessed all of the analytical side of it. When you step up over the ball,
mm-hmm,
it is really just trusting what you've done. Like, as in, I know for a fact that I don't play well when I have a million swing thoughts in my head. I go back to,
mm-hmm,
I've worked at this, I've hit this shot, I know how I want to execute this shot. My body truly knows what it needs to do to hit the shot that I want to hit. Let it go.
mm-hmm.
Like, as in, just that, like, and I say it to
Yeah.
myself. I think it was, I'm pretty sure I heard it in, I think it was Bob Ratea's book because I listened to that. But
Mm-hmm.
he literally says, let it go. He says, yeah, no, take a look at the target, let it go. And then he didn't really
Mm,
go too much into it. But for me, I say let it go. Like, as in my head, I say let it go because I go, it's kind of saying,
mm-hmm,
let go of the outcome, let go of what's happened before,
mm-hmm,
let go of your swing, let go of the club, like, just let it go. Like, just literally, you know what you need to
mm-hmm,
do. It's just my little mental trigger that
mm-hmm.
goes, I'm going to
Yeah.
execute. And then because I've already sat there and from the moment the ball comes off the club face, I've already let it go. I've already let go of the outcome. It doesn't really
Mm-hmm,
matter where that ball goes in my
mm-hmm,
head. It doesn't really matter because
mm-hmm,
I'm going to go do the same thing again down there at the next shot, you know? That kind of,
mm-hmm,
when I've framed it like that, my golf game became a lot better. Because yeah,
mm-hmm,
there wasn't that kind of anxiety, I suppose, really around what I was doing and what I wanted to happen and
mm-hmm.
what bad
Yeah.
things might happen. Um, but yeah, again, that is from like a slightly more privileged position that I've been able to work on my game a lot. I can trust
Sure.
my swing, but I think that
Sure.
I think that goes for everybody on a golf course, really. Everybody can hit a 9 iron to 10 feet or something. Like, everybody can hit a tall level golf shot. Everybody that plays golf relatively regularly hits tall level golf shots all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's kind of addictive about the sport, I think. Like, that's
Yeah.
what's fun
Yeah.
about it,
Right.
There's not everybody. I'm never gonna ping a 70-yard pass in football to a wide receiver because I can't do that. I
Well
like,
said. Well
whereas
said.
whereas a lot of people can stick a shot to 10 feet and go, that's a tour level golf
Yeah.
shot right there. So everybody has, or
Hmm.
we all have the ability to do it. It is just trust in your body and to carry out that action, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, right. Such an interesting point because as I hear you mention that, I'm like, well, yeah, absolutely. Like you do. You go out play a round with a random foursome, and somebody's going to knock down an incredible shot probably within that round. Even if they're
Yeah,
not great golfers, very
yeah,
average, like it does happen. And while that can be the motivating and inspiring piece, that can also be the piece that then starts to create expectations because we're like, well, holy shit, this game shouldn't be that complicated. It can't be so easy. When we don't then perform, it's like, what am I doing? And
yeah,
kind of both full picture here. It's like, that's when coming back to your piece, you got to say, look, I don't control that. I control my process, my routine. That's what I'm going to guarantee myself that I'm going to do time in, time out. And I'm going to let the rest be what it is. Easy to say, harder to do, but obviously a
yeah.
skill set that just needs practice.
Yeah, 100%. Like,
Interesting.
and I say it to people all the time, like, even if you got yourself on a track, man, like and tested every single measurable aspect of the golf swing, it is impossible. It is impossible to hit the same shot twice. Like, as in when I'm talking like spin
Mm,
number and absolutely everything,
yeah.
nothing. Where it comes off on the face, like literally, even just a millimeter away, it's impossible to hit the same shot twice. But what you
Yeah.
teach and what you've taught me is a process that I can do every time. I can repeat that. I know that that's the only thing that ultimately
Hmm.
is actually repeatable on a golf course. We're all chasing a
Hmm.
repeatable swing that goes perfect
Hmm.
every time, but so are the pros. They still are. They
Yeah.
still hit bad
Yeah.
shots. But what
Yeah.
sets them apart is the fact they do have that. They have their process. They have what gets them
Yeah.
comfortable and what gets them trusting in their game. And
Yeah.
that's
Hmm.
why I feel the work you do is so important for people because, like you say, it kind of does manage an expectation. It does kind of manage the expectation of the outcome and what's going to happen out there because truly nobody actually really knows what's going to happen over a golf shot. Like really, like as in you can't predict the
Yeah.
outcome.
Yeah.
You can't predict an outcome of a golf shot. You can't. You can step up and be
So true.
confident and commit to it and do your process, but after that, it's really just in the hands of, well, sometimes it feels like miracles, if I'm honest. I don't know. I hit a golf
Hmm.
shot and when I fully trust myself and I execute it, I go, wow. Like, and I just have to step back and go, I
The
really enjoyed
stars
that.
are aligned
I
sometimes.
know, yes. It's just something happened there. Great.
Yeah.
I want to go do it
Yeah.
again.
No, that's
Like,
incredible. That yeah,
yeah.
right. That now you're hooked officially. Um, this is interesting, and maybe this is where we can the final portion of what we can focus our conversation on. Um, what I really hear you saying in that too is that okay, to bring all of this to life, to tap into that acceptance and roll with the adversity of a round and not get lost in that, you need something to recenter back onto. And something to build trust in, right? A greater sense of trust than the outcome. And what I hear you saying is this is, which we hear this word all the time, right? This is our process. This is our routine.
Hmm.
I'm going to go up, I'm going to assess my lie, the conditions, the right club. I'm going to, say this kind of keyword to myself, etc.
Hmm.
One of the biggest issues I think we have in sports psychology, golf, shit, this is probably true for every sport at this point, is that process has become a buzzword. So people will say it all over the place, right? Like, oh, do my process, stick to my process, be in my process. But like, I would challenge a lot of people and say, like, what the hell does that actually even mean?
Hmm.
Have you defined that? Have you broken that down? Could we talk about the components? Because if we're just saying it, that's cool, and maybe it helps us refocus. But in the midst of competition, when you mentioned fight, flight might be, spiking here and there. Like we need to allow our brain to work less and give our brain something very tangible and concrete to go to so there's no
Hmm.
guesswork, there's no interpretation of what that means in that moment.
Mhm.
So this may be, I know we talked about this a little bit earlier, is like, okay, how do we take a concept like this and something that you've benefited from and make this a little more applicable, perhaps to a wider range of folks? And as we're having this whole discussion, there's a great sports psychologist, mental performance coach. His name's Justin Sua. Um, and he's based here in the States. He's worked with, I mean, just all sorts of world class athletes. And he had a great post on Instagram a few weeks ago talking about exactly this. Like, here's how to literally make your process and build
Mhm.
it. And I think that's an incredibly valuable exercise for folks to do. Obviously, we're not going to play that video right here and right now, but maybe this is something we could kind of close our discussion on is like, how can folks go about creating their own process, keeping this simple, keeping it,
Yeah.
tangible, concrete, but something that's going to just give them a foundation. I certainly have my thoughts here, but I'd love to open it up to you. I mean, even if you went back in the memory banks of when you first started experimenting with that idea, how
Hmm.
have you kind of, developed or identified the components that fit into your process, if you will?
Um, I love the thought of, I can do all my analytical stuff when I get to my ball, like as in if we're going
Uh-huh.
like as in I like doing all of that analytical stuff kind of behind the ball, like and I can see all that kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
I can pick my target line, I can do all of that, do my club selection, all that kind of stuff. Um and then I pick my point on the floor, like, as in like just like a foot in front of it. So then when I step up
Mm-hmm.
over the ball, I can commit that that's my target line. That's where I'm aiming my club face. That's where I want this ball to start. Um, and then it is, I'm so much more when I'm actually over the ball. My only looks at the shot that I want to hit or the target is literally just painting that picture in my mind of that last image that I see of the shot that I want to hit. And
Mm-hmm.
then it's just kind of like I don't want loads of time there. I think what we're talking about like
Sure.
carefree, like is in just that like that moment is where
Mm-hmm.
I've visualized it. I've seen what I want to do with the shot. I know what I want to. And that last hit look at the target
Mm-hmm.
just means when I look back at the ball, let it go. Let it go. I literally that's just what
Mm-hmm.
I say to myself, just let it go.
Yeah.
And it's,
Uh-huh.
I think it's, I mean, I'm sure but it's something that's so individual to everybody, isn't it? Because that, like you just said, actually, that's a
Certainly.
really interesting point. It's impossible to define for anybody what your process is, like, what a great process is, because it's going to be so
Mm-hmm.
different to everybody individually, isn't it? Same way everybody's golf swing is
Certainly.
different. There's no one who swings the golf club the
There
same.
you
Like,
go.
there's absolutely no one. So the process it has to be individual, but ultimately it is in my head, and what works for me is that's what builds the trust in what I'm going to execute there when I'm over the ball. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's the things that I do, and I love that. Like, I always say maximum you have when you address the ball is 8 seconds. I mean, yeah, again, that's different for a lot of people, but
Mm-hmm.
so often for the average
Uh-huh.
golfer, I see people focus on the ball, and you're focusing all that attention on the ball.
Sure.
And I got to hit this ball. I got to hit this
Sure.
ball. And then, see them tighten it up. You see everything happening, and they've not once looked at the
Yeah.
target. They've not once looked at what
Mm.
they actually want to do with it. They've not once done
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And I think that time just brings in more questioning. So I just really like the fact that
Yeah.
once I've done all that thinking behind the ball, I have my little field swing. Sorry, I forgot to say that. Like, I won't hit a full swing or
Sure.
anything like that. I don't want to waste my energy. I know I can trust what I worked
Mm-hmm.
on the range, but I'll have that little field swing where I just go, yeah, no, get the hands there, bang. And then when I get over the ball,
Yeah.
I can trust it. I've done the work on that on the range. I've done that. Let's just
Mm-hmm.
step up and hit it. Like we said last time, just
And
step
get
up and
to
hit
it.
it. Yeah. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think it's so easy to get over analytical with it that when
Certainly.
questions get, and then you just give yourself more time for questions or doubts to creep in, you know?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's, that was what resonated with me when I started using a process. And that I will say that or like, that idea, and especially what we discuss now, is like that takes shots off your game without ever improving your golf swing or anything like that, because, you're more target orientated, you're more in the moment. You're more there. You're more present rather than being all paranoid.
Yeah, right. I mean, think about, I was just listening to something about this earlier today. Our brains love pattern and repetition, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can think about the, like, for 90, probably, it's probably more than that, 90% of like the human population, we live our days the exact same every single day,
Uh-huh.
right? I get out of
Uh-huh.
bed, I roll out of the same side. I go and I use the restroom, same sort of way. I go out and get a glass of water, same sort of way. Like, our brain loves routine. There's a lot of comfort in that. That does
Mm-hmm.
not all of a sudden not become true when we step out on the golf course, right? I mean, if we want to be able to be settled, if we want to be able to be grounded and find any sort of presence, as you're mentioning, routines, process, same sort of word, are huge for that. Now, with that said as well, something you mentioned that kind of got my brain turning, right? It's, I hear you say, I don't like to make it too long. I got 8 seconds. Don't make this too, intellectual, nothing along those lines. And I think that's a great point because I think it's also very easy then to overcomplicate this. And something that I recommend to a lot of the folks that I work with, and I throw this out to folks tuning in and listening, and Jake, maybe yourself, if you want to experiment with it, is when I think process or routines, especially for somebody maybe newer, right? That's not going to get as specialized and going to get as cute into all these particular moments. I like to refer to something that I call the core four, right? And this is
Mm-hmm.
the idea that throughout my entire round, if I only have 4 process focused actions, behaviors, habits
Mm-hmm.
that I'm going to focus on. And if I know I do these 4 over the round, whether they're part of pre-shot or post-shot or between shot, just hone in on these 4. It's going to give me the best chance possible to play my best golf. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's a really nice way. We might start with a long list of 15, but then cross them out, narrow it down. Which
Mm-hmm.
4 are the highest leverage? We go
Yeah.
out there. That's the focus. Examples I think are, easily pulled from what you said, having that cue word. Really
Mm-hmm.
simple way of, all right, I'm switching from, the think box to the play box. I'm getting ready to step in and actually just let it go in this way. What you mentioned earlier in our conversation around even when you're approaching the ball and you say, all right, can I get present here? Right? Can I tune back
Mm-hmm.
in? That's
Yeah.
what a beautiful kind of process oriented element or action that happens throughout that has this compounding effect.
Yeah.
Big body language is one that comes up with a lot of the golfers I work with. And
Yeah.
then you mentioned as well pace, right? Like if I'm taking too long, if I'm walking too fast, another great kind of core 4 example we can tune to. So I don't
Yeah.
know. How's this? I mean, I'm just kind of word vomiting here, but how's
No,
this
yeah,
land to
no,
you?
no. It's fantastic. Yeah, no, like yeah. Every time I approach the ball, I'm already visualizing it. Like because I think a lot of us know obviously what we need to do before we've even like stepped up to the ball. Like we've got to know roughly like what the lie is or what we're going to be doing with it. So I don't like it's
Hmm.
not like and when I say like max 8 seconds, it's not like there's a ticking timer going off in my head or anything
Right,
like that.
right,
Like
right,
I'm not going like 8, 7. Like I'm not counting down to it.
right.
But I don't know why. It just seemed to be like this nice number where I'm just like, oh no, that's my a bit of comfort time. Like as in I'll have my waggles.
Hmm.
I'll just look at the target. I'll set my feet are set. I'm grounded. I'm ready. I'm just ready to
Hmm.
execute. And it just doesn't
Hmm.
allow for all of these thoughts to creep in. Like, oh, I worked on this on my swing yesterday. Like, what if I do this? And what if I don't hit this position? None of that
Hmm.
comes into my head
Yeah,
when
yeah,
when I'm repeatable in my routine. It doesn't. Like um,
yeah.
but yeah, it's just that. Yeah. So what would my core 4 be? My core 4 is 100% presence. For me, it would probably be
Mm.
like you said last time. Actually, and it's something that I've implemented, but just breath, like a single turn is my breath, like as in before I hit the shot. Sometimes, especially if I'm in like in a bit of
Mhm.
a heightened state, I do. I'll go back to my breath, like I'll do a belly breath or two, because again, that gives me something that's present here now, like as in I'm breathing, like I can feel my stomach expand, and
Mhm.
that and something as small as that. Um,
Sure.
and and then let it go. I think. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
that would be such a key. That's such a big part of my routine now, and I know that I play my best golf when I'm thinking that way. Really, it's just
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
like it just allows me just to be free. and
Yeah.
enjoy it more. Actually,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Right. Like, it's, I can't stand when, all right, I'll say it. I hate it when people are like, oh, just don't focus on that. And it's like, well, what does that mean? Like, I can't just not focus on something all of a sudden, right? Like, if I'm not going to focus on A, then I need something in slot B so that I can direct my focus to. And that's what I hear you really saying here is like, these thoughts may arise, but I have this really sticky kind of routine and habits that I go back to every single time. And when I go back to them, those thoughts don't have quite as much power. And that's really special because then we get out of our way, we free it up, we can let it go, and hopefully we're playing some great golf at that point if the golf gods agree. But marvelous, marvelous. Well, how about this then? As we're just about at our time here, let's keep chewing on this. Let's keep working on this a little bit more,
He said it. He
and
said it.
sticking. There we go. I had to throw one in. Had to throw one in. And let's see how it evolves, right? Because this is also something the game of golf is notorious for, giving us a little runway, making us feel like we're right where we want to be, and then we get some sort of curveball. So let's keep experimenting with it, keep kind of iterating on it, and see how we kind of evolve the process as we go forward.
Yeah. Okay. And then, my homework is get my core four. Yeah. I'll get my core four, like,
There we go.
like properly implemented for you. Okay. Yeah. Because I love that.
I would be, yeah, I'd be curious to hear that.
Yeah. Because that's just a really interesting thought. And core four. It's kind of catchy as well. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. It even rhymes. Even rhymes. Amazing.